Hi everybody and welcome to chapter 3 of Online News Project.
Now I'm kind of embarrassed again, just going back to the story.
I was sitting in the bus and I was getting back from school and I got off at my stop and there's this guy walking next to me and he's approaching me and he's like, listen, I think you're a really pretty girl and as an Israeli, I think it's my duty to ask you out. I was like, okay.
Whenever you experience something extraordinary is when one of your identities clash with the local identities. So sometimes being foreign here, you just have to do something wrong. It just happens. And you just have to do it wrong because you don't know how to do it right. So I remember that one of the biggest oops moments here was when me and some friends went on a day trip to some village in the desert. And at one point I was talking to them in Hebrew, and I wanted to take some notes of the vocabulary they were using. So I went to get a sheet of paper and a pen somewhere, and the problem was at this point I didn't realize that it was Shabbat and religious Jews don't write on Shabbats. So I didn't consider that and went to one of the neighboring houses to ask someone. So there was this guy sitting, he was an elderly man, and I asked him for a sheet of paper and a pen, and he looked at me really stern. Then he gave me the sheet of paper and the pen without saying anything. When I went out of the house, people told me, hey Simon, you just asked like a sheet of paper on a Shabbat from the rabbi of the village. And I was like, oops.
So one time I was in a cab and I was with this guy, my friend. So I was kind of like just trying to show off. And one time I've heard that if it's a flat price, make sure you tell him and not vice versa. It's like, okay, you know what? So I'm going to practice my Hebrew as well. I told the guy in Hebrew, I'm like, you know what? I have, like with this very aggressive tone, I have 100 shekels. I need to go to Tel Aviv, 2 stops, take it or leave it. He looks at me in the mirror and all of a sudden starts screaming, get out of my cab! Who do you think you are? You tourist, this and that. I looked at my friend, he looked at me like I was an idiot, first of all. And we got out laughing hysterically afterwards. I mean, that was the last time I've ever did that. Next time I know, be polite to taxi drivers. It is their job.
The funnest experience I had here was when there was national holiday in Austria and I felt really Austrian for some reason. And so me and a friend, we decided to dress up in our national dresses. She in her dirndl, like the national Austrian dress, and me in my lederhosen. So we went on campus where I'm sitting right now and completely dressed up on the national holiday of Austria, and people were looking at us like it was hilarious. They were looking, what are these guys doing? Are they just coming down from the Alps and yodeling now? What are they doing? And me and my friend were really enjoying it because it was we just felt confirmed in our identity, and even though we were like in a different country, in a different culture.
You know, I've always heard this thing that Israeli girls are very hard to get. And there's a stereotype of Americans in Israel, they're not so hard to get. So I'm going into a party and there's this guy talking to me, and you know, he realizes I'm American because of my accent. So I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna play really hard to get. I ignored him, I left, I said, you know what, you're not that interesting. And I went back to my friends, and you know, I'm thinking I'm looking all pretty, I'm sitting on a bar stool next to the DJ, and I tried to scoot the bar stool over to get away from the speakers, and literally, my bar stool just flips over. It was like a movie that the entire club, I mean, it was just my imagination maybe, but the music stopped, everyone looked at me, and the guy that I was talking to in the beginning and his best friend were laughing hysterically at me.
It's kind of like a little bit personal, but I figured I would share it anyway and I will make it public. So I was at a club and I was getting a little bit drunk, okay. And so in Israel usually guys come talk to girls. It's kind of like the Middle Eastern mentality, I would say, but very nice. And this time I thought to myself, you know what, I'm gonna do it the Belgian way. I'm gonna go up to a guy and say something. So I thought about a very funny line. Well, I thought it was funny. And I walked up to him and I was like, and he turned around and he's like, what? And I'm like, you have 5 seconds to talk to me or I'm gone. And he's like looking at me, shocked, and he's like, I have a girlfriend. I'm like, oops.
So that's it. See you soon.